Welcome to the Scaling Creative Podcast. We are going to wrap up our social media series here today.
We are. We're excited about it. We're going to wrap up the series and talk about kind of the remaining bunch. We did an episode all about Facebook, all about Instagram, all about LinkedIn, but there are a lot of platforms that we decided to not cover in their entirety in an episode. So we're going to wrap up kind of what we think are maybe 3 to 5 more platforms that obviously would be foolish of us not to mention, being YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, a bunch of things that are incredibly important and have unbelievable size audiences. But we decided to kind of just wrap up and talk a little bit about each one of those in one episode instead of making this a 10-week series. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
The first one that we're going to tackle is Twitter.
Twitter.
Do you use Twitter?
I use Twitter. And this is one, so Twitter is one that would be foolish not to talk about. Twitter is a big platform. Mm-hmm. A lot of people use it, but it's a platform that I think a lot of people don't really know how they should use at all. Mm-hmm. Like they kind of are on it because like, why not? Mm-hmm. There are certain people that's like their number one most exciting platform. Mm-hmm. A lot of people use it as a sounding board for other things, which is partially what we'll talk about of a good way to use it at a defense from your company. Yeah. I use Twitter a lot. I use it more than anything for information of news. Mm-hmm. I follow a lot of like sports people, not athletes, but like reporters, different people like that. I use it a lot to interact with people from YouTube and things because it's a good place for them to kind of get a direct DM to me for different things. It's also a platform I get in touch with a lot of people through. Okay. And I use 100% for my customer service to companies.
Okay. Yes.
Which is a thing that I think people need to pay attention to as a company.
In what way? Expand on that.
So if I have a problem with an iPad, I just DM Apple support, and 24 hours a day, they're responding. Mm-hmm. They will set up my appointments at the Apple store. They'll try to troubleshoot some things over it. If I have a problem with Verizon for something, for a cell phone or for Fios, whatever, it's all done through Twitter DM. If I have issues with most things, that's literally where I go first. So if your company's not in there doing that and you're kind of ignoring the platform, but you have I'm assuming that if you have a Twitter that that's what a lot of people are doing these days. Mm-hmm. So if I write to you and I'm like, I have a problem with this thing and no one responds, it doesn't look good to me. That's kind of how I look at it. Right. And not that they're responsible to make customer service their Twitter thing, but Twitter is a great place to like just listen to what people are saying about your company. Okay. Twitter's become like the sounding board per se of people that complain about a lot of things, but you can use that to your advantage because you can show up. I've always said the most unique thing about Twitter is the only platform, the only thing in the world that you can randomly jump in on anyone's conversation and it's not awkward because that's what people do on Twitter. So it's the really cool place that you can just pay attention like what people are saying as a whole about your company, about local things. You can search Twitter for certain things and you can literally just jump in on any conversation and no one's like, who the heck is this guy? Because that's what people are used to in Twitter. And you can use that to your advantage as a company because you can kind of humanize yourself really elegantly because you're not hoping that people are already following you or that people have not blocked you. Like you just can jump in. And I've seen companies do this really, really well. And the companies that do it really well from a competing standpoint are cleverly doing it by, if someone complains about something on Verizon, I've seen T-Mobile or Sprint or different people like jump in and be like, yeah, that's unacceptable. Like just almost in fun ways. Yeah. But it's a cool way to do it. Because it's like if you overheard someone talking about your company in a bad way in person, you'd probably want to be like, hey, I just want to let you know, like we're sorry that you're having that problem. Like we'd love to talk about it. That's how I look at Twitter. Okay. Now I know neither one of you use Twitter very much.
No, and in
fact, Pablo made an appearance like last week for the first time in like 3 months, and someone was like, what in the world? Pablo's on.
Who's this guy? Yeah, no, I definitely, and it's funny because like I feel like, I don't use it enough to feel like I should talk about, like be the one to talk about it or whatever, but I I would agree with Scott. I think it's probably the most, when I do use it, I think it's the most accessible when to get in touch with companies, with celebrities, with people that you may look up to or whatever, just because I don't know what it is, but it's true. There's something about a tweet that's different than like when you follow someone on like maybe Instagram or Facebook or whatever. There's something that you can easily find them accessible. And it's true with companies. Like I've had so many things either returned through Twitter DM, or like I've even rebooked a plane ticket through Twitter DM. Like they're there. It's like they're waiting for you. It's like, it's very interesting. Well, not every company, but most companies that I've dealt with, you've taught me that like you can reach them through Twitter. And I just think it's a really cool platform that, again, it's not weird if you reach out to people through there, because they're just easily accessible on there, I think.
Yeah, Twitter DM and Facebook Messenger are becoming very, very popular customer service platforms from a DM standpoint.
Right.
Okay.
And the companies that get it, and mostly, you've got to be a relatively large company to probably afford like people that are just for support, like those people that are on Apple support, for example. Obviously, those are 24-hour shifts and multiple people, because I've gotten responses back at 5 a.m. and midnight and random things. So they're obviously 24 hours a day. There's people that is another location for them. They look at it equally as important. And I love it because it's just convenient. Like it's much more convenient for me to just, because they also can look back at your old conversation. So when someone else jumps on their new shift and I write and I'm like, hey, just curious about an update on this, and they can quickly just look and be like, oh yeah, I saw you're having issues. Are you still having issues with that? I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's nice. What are your thoughts on Twitter?
I don't have a ton of them, but and the only place that I really see tweets is when people post them on Instagram.
Terrible method we'll talk about.
Well, no, like when other people like screenshot and, that's really the only time that I see Twitter. And it's usually funny things or like comebacks from companies that are really funny. But the cool thing is that 73% of Twitter users are also avid
100%.
Instagram users, which is why
Definitely.
you should not cross-post.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit more. And we've talked about this often throughout the series.
With all social media.
Yeah, if you've been with us this whole series, that's a big no.
It's a big no because it's lazy. And especially with that, just that stat alone about that 75% of people, and that's just that the 75% of people on Twitter are also on Instagram. Probably 99% of all Twitter users are on something else in general.
Yes.
Meaning,
true,
you're making a big mistake to just share the same information because you're not giving people a reason to follow you. I think the reason a lot of people don't follow companies on multiple platforms is because it's the same stuff. So you're kind of saying, well, and literally if you see it one time, it kind of tells you like, okay, I don't really need to follow it. And people are always looking to like eliminate noise on social media. And if they can eliminate you by simply knowing, okay, well, I'm not really eliminating them, I'm going to see the same thing elsewhere, it's a big mistake. And I think Twitter can be just a really good unfiltered kind of look into things, because Twitter, obviously, unlike Instagram where you kind of have to have a visual represented with it, or even Facebook is different because of how people are in that. Twitter is kind of it's the most real, I feel like I see a lot of people. Some people do it wrongly, not realizing how real it makes them look, because it ends up being the sounding board of them complaining about something. But it's kind of the very quick, random thoughts. People can post hundreds of times a day if they really want to. And I don't think a lot of platforms have that the same. Like Instagram stories still requires a visual unless you're like, posting a screenshot or something. But Twitter's so...
Yeah.
You don't really think hard about
Twitter's almost like I've always looked at Twitter as like a real-time conversation about current stuff that's always happening. It's whether you're in on it or not, but I feel like it's something that like anytime I jump in on Twitter, there's a conversation happening about what's happening in the world, like anything. And so I feel like it's just something that's always happening. But I agree, it's like less visual. It's just more of like if for example, like the biggest thing that people joke about all the times when Instagram goes down, Twitter's there.
Yeah.
Twitter sees its biggest spikes when everything else is having issues.
Isn't that interesting?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that like I think it can be visual, and you get more response when there are visual things with it, no doubt about it. But I also think something, and we deal with this even with some of our own clients that have very, very, very large Twitter followings, and that's kind of their main platform. and they struggle big time to figure out how to actually get reach elsewhere because they've really kind of put all their eggs in one basket. Because there are certain demographics that are heavily into Twitter. So there are people that I know that are really big, like networking and IT people that like their communities are built on Twitter, and you could literally just be on that and nothing else. And that's fine. And then even some of our education clients, same thing. They're very into Twitter, which is all good until you don't have Twitter anymore for some reason, or until everyone leaves it and because they all like something else better. Then you're like, everywhere else, I don't have any sort of following. And putting your eggs in one basket's bad in general, but I think it is important to just realize that if you're having really good success on Twitter, don't just think that what you're doing on Twitter is going to become your success elsewhere. Try to think about, because you may just be posting stuff very natively in that, and people may really like what you're doing, and then going and doing the same thing in Instagram might not work. So trying to think about how you're going to tell your story is good.
When I was doing some of my research on this, a lot of people talk about the optimal times to post on Twitter, that you have like a 24-minute, I can't remember what they called it, a 24-minute half-life, essentially, which is 4 times shorter than the average post on Facebook, which means that tweeting at the right time is really important. And so some of the info that I found on Hootsuite said that Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. is like the best time to post on Twitter for B2B audiences.
Yeah, and like, to me, I would say don't use. Here's the big thing: don't use Twitter to get business. That's literally what I would say.
Really?
Twitter, I do not think you get business from Twitter.
Okay.
I think Twitter
Maintain
becomes
relationships?
Yes,
Okay.
maintain relationships, put out fires, listen to people, see what people are talking about. Don't look, especially from B2B. I don't use Twitter for 1% of actually like thinking that I'm using it to get business. It should be another place that you show up because everyone's elsewhere also. So it's like, it's just a good place to show up to. I don't look at Twitter at all, and I don't think that anyone should look at it as that's going to be their thing to get business. Can you get business? Sure. But don't look at it that way because you'll feel disappointed all the time because organic reach for sure is incredibly low in Twitter because of how much noise there is. Like unbelievably low, and paid's not really worth it. So I look at it that you really can't overpost in Twitter because barely anyone sees it anyway. And all you can really do is, I like just being more a part of the conversations. I don't really care about how many people follow me per se. Like I'll post different things, different tweets and things, but I really just like using it as I jump in on other conversations. I love trending things, like you said, are a huge thing. Trending. Anytime something's happening, go on Twitter. That's how I start to, like, if I hear about some big casualty of some sort of life event, I instantly go on Twitter and go to trending and see what people are talking about because it's great for that. Yeah. And that's kind of how I see it.
Any other things about Twitter?
No.
That you want to hit on?
I think it's just important to realize there definitely are people on it.
Okay.
But just try to just use the search.twitter.com or directly in the search, and that's the best way to do it. Search things people are talking about that are like relative to what you might offer if you are a business, and then just jump in on some conversations, and then do it smartly, just like everything we've talked about. Add value to conversations. Don't just sell. Have conversations. Don't sell on Twitter. It just is not going to get you anything anyway. And just use it as a platform. Like, people are on it.
Okay.
So that's how I look at it.
YouTube.
This is a good one.
YouTubers.
Yeah.
Here we are.
That is us.
Maybe one day I'll be a YouTuber, but not now.
It's coming.
So YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world, behind Google, who also owns YouTube. And in case you didn't know, anytime you search something on Google, usually a video shows up as a search result from YouTube. You want to use YouTube to get people to come across what they're searching. And you can do it through just posting lots of stuff and then hoping that you get pushed up. Or you can use it and pay for it with pay-per-click. And it's very, very important that you should be putting stuff on YouTube as a business or a personal brand or a vlogger or anything.
Okay.
I think anyone.
Literally.
Because it's a search engine. Like most people listening to this probably would be honest that like if I even have a question these days,
you go to YouTube.
I literally just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't even go to Google and see if YouTube shows up because I know it's gonna anyway. They're pushing YouTube because they own it.
They own it, yeah.
So I want to just be looking most time, unless there's something I know that wouldn't necessarily. But is there anything that wouldn't come up as a video result these days? No.
It's at the top.
Like it's just always there.
Is that? I mean, everyone says video is king,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think this is just like another piece of the proof
Mm-hmm.
that it is. Because yeah, it's so true. I do whenever I need something, especially education wise. I go to YouTube.
Every business these days is founded by like video production. Is they went to school. It's like YouTube University is how I look at it, and everyone is using it for that. Like people learn how to build cars, change oil, make cakes, shoot video, use social media. Like everything is on there. It's really noisy, which is the only problem with YouTube.
Yeah.
And
How do
there
you
are
cut through that?
You don't.
Okay.
You just have to hope that value. I think when something gets really, 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 really noisy, eventually the quality stuff rises.
Okay.
YouTube really does pay a lot of attention, like what people are. Well, sometimes they do. Their algorithm is a little bit weird. That there are some amazing creators that don't have a lot of reach, and then there's some that are terrible creators that also have a lot. But then again, I'm saying they're terrible. Clearly, people aren't because people are watching it. Yeah. I don't think there's definitely no formula to YouTube. That's what's frustrating to people.
Okay.
We've seen clients that have humongous Twitter followers, postings on YouTube, and get 5, 6, 7 views. Yep. There's no formula to it. The only formula that I've found is that you have to just put out a lot of stuff and hope that 1 in 10, 1 in 20, 1 in 50 becomes more popular than some of the other ones, which then draws people to say what other stuff is happening. Okay. I think having the library, and Pablo will touch on this too, like just having a library of stuff is the best thing you can have, because when people come across one video that YouTube for some reason predicts they should watch, YouTube is the platform that, like, if I come across a video, I'm like, I liked that. I go to their channel and see what other stuff they're doing.
100%.
I'll subscribe maybe, or I'll just see other videos. And having a catalog behind it is super important, because now if I say that was really informational, and then I see they have 400 more videos, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
I found a whole new channel that I can dive into info about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that Scott's taught me a while back, and I the more I'm doing it, the more I find it to be true, is that people come to YouTube for 2 reasons, which is education and entertainment. And I think that if you can just find your voice, whatever business you are, personal brand you are, it doesn't matter whatever you are, but like as long as you can find your voice and provide value to people and you fall in love with that process, then YouTube can work perfectly fine for you, because at least you're putting stuff out to show people, like you said, what it is you're about. What are you doing? What are you building? Like all those kinds of things or whatever, because people are looking on YouTube to learn and to be entertained as well.
Okay, so if you're a new business or like a new personal brand, what's the best way to get on YouTube? Like if you don't have, like, do you need all this gear?
No, of course not. I mean, I think that depending on the field you're in, some of it is important. I do think that, when Pablo and I put out content on YouTube, we don't think about it nearly as much as we think about it very differently, because to a point, our personal brand also is represented. Like, we are a video production company. So naturally, our vlogs might and should probably look better in the first place, because we should have the skill set.
For sure.
We definitely are more raw on YouTube. We don't pay as much attention. But if you're not trying to essentially at the end of your funnel sell video production, no one necessarily is paying too much attention. Now, no doubt about it, audio is unbelievably important. And if someone is watching or listening to something and it sounds better or looks better, I do think that helps people stay. I don't think it definitely doesn't help get your name out there.
Okay.
But I think it does help people stay longer. Because if I go to a video, and obviously we have different sensitivities to like bad audio and good video and all that kind of stuff, but if I go to something and it just sounds terrible, like I'm not even giving someone a chance. I mean, it could be the best video ever. It's gone. Yeah. That's how I look at it. Yeah. Other people would be surprised how many times they're actually doing the same thing without realizing it. They're just like something about people don't excuse bad audio. They excuse bad video if there's good audio, and people don't realize it enough, but your ears make you turn things off more than people think. But there's no secret to it. The videos, and that's why I think that you should, to a point, use that as an advantage of, I tell people this all the time, people that are like struggling with putting stuff out is, don't you decide if you think something's good enough to put out. Because the things that you think are good enough to put out, nobody will, and vice versa. The things that you're like, I just don't even know why I'm going to post this. And it becomes your most popular video. Yeah,
and I feel like I just had a conversation with Tom Murray the other day, and it was about writing. He's an author. And similar concepts, I think, just in life in general. He's like, as he was writing, he's like, this is going to be tweeted out. And this, he was like, this is going to be so good. And then nobody's ever talked about it. And the stuff that 4 a.m. he woke up random, had this thought, and that's what's popular. Like, you don't know always what your audience is going to connect with. And then when they do, take note of that and learn.
Or just take note of the fact that it's not always what you think happened. Yeah. So don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it.
The biggest thing on YouTube is to not overthink it. And then this next biggest thing is to realize it does not matter how unbelievable the video you're about to put out is, even if it's at the highest quality, everything you spent $1 million on the video you put on YouTube, it still doesn't matter. YouTube's algorithms deciding whether or not. And I think YouTube, I've absolutely seen that. I think YouTube kind of wants you to build credibility before they recommend you to people. I think that they kind of want to see, and I don't know, this could not even be accurate at all, but I literally feel like what I see is YouTube kind of making people put out content, a good amount of it, before they even recommend it, because I almost feel like it helps them when they say, like, okay, check out Scott's channel, and I have a lot of videos behind that other people are watching, because it makes them feel like it's a platform. YouTube is like Netflix. It's not like Facebook in terms of social media. YouTube is a content consuming. Yeah. People consume content on that, just like they consume. You binge watch YouTube, and you can get caught in a funnel and never leave. It's unbelievable how much you can watch YouTube.
For you section,
Dude,
unbelievable. Yeah,
I'll listen to a sermon, and then the next one will just come. That's actually how I found some of my favorite people is the recommended, you know, just what it goes to next.
And that's also what's tricky about YouTube, and I think people don't realize is that, like, someone hits subscribe, most people never even go to their subscriptions page. They're really going to what 8 videos YouTube's recommending on your homepage. Which is why it's a lottery system, whether people will watch any of your videos, which is why you shouldn't overthink it. And which is why, if you were going to buy lottery tickets, the more you buy, the better chance you get of people seeing it. The more videos you put out, the better chance you have of overall. And then as you start to have 300, 400 in an overall funnel, it's being recommended as a whole, your channel, on more and more and more platforms.
So interesting. So Twitter and YouTube, it sounds like, don't overthink it.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter definitely. But YouTube, the only thing that you should, like, overthink is, well, not even overthink. It's not the word. You need to put out a lot of stuff on YouTube. You don't have to put out a lot of stuff on Twitter, realistically.
I think YouTube is a base that should be covered, but I think a lot of people look at it from an external standpoint, and they need to look introspectively. So I think it's more of something that YouTube is something that you should enjoy the process of sharing your story. It shouldn't be something that, if you're posting, if you're consuming, consume what you want, do whatever you want. And if you're looking to learn something, great. But if you're putting stuff out as a company or as a brand or whatever, you should focus and love the process of sharing value with people, not looking at like how many views, how many subs, how many blah blah blah, whatever the stuff that comes. Subs, subscribers. Sorry for those listening. Yeah, I think it's more, that's when I started to enjoy YouTube more, when I started to actually focus on what I'm putting out and enjoying that process and not getting overwhelmed and overthinking, but just putting out. And then, and now I love YouTube for that reason, because I don't focus on what people are thinking of it. I just do it.
Yeah, and I think a very important thing to talk about with YouTube is that the ad platform of YouTube and pre-roll ads and all that is incredible. It's just expensive. So with Google AdWords, what a lot of people don't realize is that the pre-roll ads that you see on YouTube are not based on what you just searched in YouTube. They're based on what you searched in general, and then they throw pre-roll ads based on what you've been looking for in front of any video that you're watching. People don't realize that if you're trying to advertise a auto service shop that does oil changes and someone searches oil change Allentown, Pennsylvania, they may then search something on Google or on YouTube like how to film a commercial and an oil change video can play before it. It's not based on what they just searched on YouTube. It's based on what they did search. So it's unbelievably effective because you're actually getting people legit that are searching for your service and you're putting an ad in front of them. The problem is it's expensive because it is good and it is 100% caught up with how good it is, that it's not one that I always recommend to use AdWords, only because of the fact that if you're a smaller business especially, you can't really afford to run $6 pay-per-clicks or $10 or even more, because it really also depends on what word you're buying. The word itself can be, if you buy the word wine, it may be $13 a click, $14, and those clicks don't mean sales. They just mean someone literally clicked ad on and go into it. That can be expensive, really expensive. But if you have money or you want to put some into it, it's absolutely a great platform because people are searching for you inside it. But I think YouTube pre-roll ads are where I think can be important. Proof of that is the amount of times that someone will see, and there's two different ad platforms essentially that live in YouTube. One of them is owned by Google, which is like the pre-roll ads or the mid ads. The bigger one that people are using on YouTube is influencer marketing ads, which I think YouTube is honestly going to try to figure out a way to monetize those, to be honest, because people are using YouTube's platform in an unbelievable way to make billions of dollars, and YouTube's not getting a cut of me, on YouTube saying this video is sponsored by so-and-so. I think they're going to figure out how to monetize that. But that's a way better method because the reason it's such a good method is if I'm watching a creator I like and they pitch a product to me that is sponsored by, it means way more than the ad that comes up before that I can skip, or even if it's mandatory. It's also way cheaper because that you're paying a flat fee to a creator. That video could get 5 million plays and be worth unbelievable amount. It also could get 1,000 plays. You don't really know. So it's a lottery system in that, but paying a straight up creator a sponsored video is really, really effective. It's how kids, the story we've told before about how like kids are using things like SeatGeek and all these different things because their favorite vlogger did a video. They knew nothing about what SeatGeek was, but then their parents were like, we should buy tickets. Oh, you should use SeatGeek and use promo code this. It's important. Squarespace does this with they spend more money on influencer marketing than any company I've ever seen. I swear they sponsor everything on YouTube. I don't even know how they make money at this point, but regardless, it's effective. And I think that's the smarter play right now until YouTube decides to figure out how to monetize it, because of the fact that them talking about it also in their video shows up to every view ever. Where those ads that show before it are only showing up based on the budget that you put in front of the video. So you may spend $7 for one click for a term, or you could spend $1,000 to sponsor the whole video, but that $1,000 lasts for the lifetime of that video. And if you get lucky enough to sponsor one that for some reason goes pretty viral, you can get an unbelievable bang for your buck. But the biggest thing, and this is all influencer marketing, the most important thing is if you're going to sponsor a video for someone, let them decide how they want to present it in whatever way they want to present it. Because the biggest mistake you can make is to take a vlogger who has a great audience and knows his audience, and then you're like, can you please say this script? They probably won't do it, and you'll lose it. But more importantly, it won't feel natural to their audience. But when someone talks about it, a creator I talk or listen to, and they talk about something, it means a lot more. Absolutely. In a big way.
It means a lot more. And I think the common question I get all the time, and we vlog, so like people, will see the camera on me all the time. And the common question always is, do you make money on YouTube? Do do you really like how do you everyone's interested. And I'm always like, you know what, like it's not about necessarily, I mean, don't get me wrong, can you make money on YouTube? Yes. Do people make a ton of money on YouTube? Yes. And can you? Of course. But it's not even about that. Literally, there's legitimate customers that Scott and I have gotten for our legitimate company that pay us legitimate money. Yeah. And there's legitimate food on my table because of it. Like it comes from the attention and we're not even like we just are getting started, which is the funniest bit about it. But yes, I think like I said, I think it's a base that should be covered. If you're a business, if you're an influencer, a personal brand, whatever, and you can use it to your advantage as well if you're just getting started too.
Yeah, and I think it's a platform that isn't so much like age specific. Like,
definitely not.
No.
There are so many kids that are on.
They watch it like TV.
Yeah, that's the
That's the difference.
And yes,
it is their TV.
All ages. From my 4-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Loves the chances that she gets that I let her have a little bit of uninterrupted time to watch YouTube. Yeah. She's 4. And there's 90-year-olds that, because they don't even realize they're on YouTube half the time. They just searched Google and then it came up. Like the whole point is,
picture at the top of the search.
And that's the difference. Is there are different ages that are in these social media platforms. That's why I don't think YouTube is a social media platform. YouTube is a consumption platform, and the world is. Did you bring up the stat of how many people that in the? I can tell you a stat off the top of my head. Every 30 minutes. There is more content uploaded on YouTube than all cable television since it began day one have been put out.
I do know that it reaches more Americans, especially like 18 to 20 or 18 to 34.
They're the ones that consume the most of it.
Right, but they use it. That's where they watch television.
Yep, that's all. I literally, if it wasn't for my wife, I would literally cancel all TV. And just use YouTube because that's literally all I go to. She's not the same, but it will be the same soon. The whole landscape of television is changing. It's already changed to an internet base, but it's going to change even more. It's going to be a pay per channel thing in a couple of years. That when you want to watch ABC, it's not a part of anything. You pay $3 a month to watch ABC, and then you just like an app subscription. You pay for the 4 channels that you actually watch. But more and more companies are starting to realize, like you should put every time a news story comes on, you should just go on YouTube Live. That's where people are. And go direct to the source. Because the more and more that I can get direct to you, the more and more that all the other people are now in trouble. Because previously you had to be in a contract with somebody to get on their cable network. You don't anymore. You have direct to consumer. So you know who's the most scared about this? All the companies that are currently selling cable television. Because they realize that all these contracts are coming to an end. And it's like a record deal with music. You used to have a record deal to get in front of people. Record labels are dying right now trying to figure out how in the world they're going to stay afloat because they no longer have leverage. They no longer are the ones that you need to do it. And now they need you way more than you need them. That's never how it was. And cable television is no different because when you can download the app for ABC and just direct in there, which right now you can't, just direct in there just by ABC without having to log in with your things, those contracts are going to expire. And you're only going to pay $2, 99 cents maybe for a channel.
Which is so crazy. My mom was saying like, oh, I don't have QVC, and I'm like, go on YouTube. It's live, QVC live, like,
or on their apps or all the different people.
Wherever. So, any other last minute things you want to say about YouTube?
We could talk about it forever, but I think we covered a lot.
I think that all you need to hear are just a couple ridiculous stats. I'm trying to find the ones that I actually. 400 hours are uploaded to YouTube every minute. 1 billion hours of videos are watched every day. 1 billion hours per day.
It's insane.
Like, to give you like just a crazy understanding of how many people spend it, I have a very small, per se, YouTube channel of 41,000 subscribers. In the last 28 days, 793,000 minutes have been watched on my channel. 140,000 views. So 140,000 eyeballs have watched one tiny, small YouTube that is 0.0000001% of like how much content is out there.
That's crazy.
And the amount of companies that'll come to us, be like, yeah, we just got 1,000 people to see our ad on this. I'm like, it's great. I've gotten 140,000 times. Like,
yeah,
meaning this is why like influencer marketing and why YouTube is such a serious thing.
Yes.
There are so many people on it watching.
And it's accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is start posting.
And free.
And free. You don't have to pay to post.
You post. It's unbelievable.
You pay in hard work maybe.
Yep.
Or whatever, but you just post. That's the best thing about it, is that it's accessible for everybody. You just have to have a good story to tell.
And the biggest thing about being scared to start, don't be scared to start, because when you start, no one's watching anyway.
True.
It's the truth.
That's when you can learn.
Find your voice after a year, and you're still fine, because most people still aren't watching. The problem is most people quit because of that.
Correct.
Most people post. They get the amount of people that have started vlogging and 6 videos in, they're like, I have 4 views. This just isn't worth it. That's why 99.9% of people don't do it. You have to look past that this is super long term and just post and stop paying attention to what's coming in.
It's a marathon.
It's a huge marathon.
Yeah.
YouTube's not going anywhere, in case people didn't know. Amazon's the only people that have a chance of dethroning YouTube in a huge way.
I was wondering about that.
Oh,
Very
that
interesting
could be an entire other episode, but they are the only ones that are going to cause a major disruption in all things because they have unlimited money.
All right, so let's just touch on a couple of things like Pinterest. Who should be on Pinterest?
Moms. I'm just kidding.
Well, a lot of moms and females are on Pinterest. So I think that if you run anything that is targeted to them, like if they're your target market, if you're selling dresses, if you're selling jewelry, if you're selling arts and crafts, if you're selling signs, if you're selling unique things,
decor, anything like that.
It's a huge platform. I will not even get into like how to use it properly, because I don't physically use it a lot. I know my wife uses Pinterest and pins boards all over the place. I know that people pay attention to it. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
I won't tell you how to use it, but I will say if you're into something that is targeted at a female demographic, especially if it's a visual product,
get on there
and figure out how you're going to use it efficiently, because it's good.
And there are people out there, like I know one girl, Jenna Kuchar, I think is her name. She has like courses on how to best utilize different platforms. So if you do your research, you'll find stuff and you'll be able to, learn how to utilize those different kinds of platforms well. I used to be on Pinterest, but now I'm mostly on Instagram. Like I used Pinterest for design stuff. To me, it's so much easier to find it now on Instagram. Personally, I've shifted.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I've used Pinterest a ton over the last month to literally look at pool ideas, because I want to put in a pool. So if I found an amazing pool in Pinterest and I pinned the board or pinned it or shared it, and you were the company, who that was, the pool designer,
right? Yeah.
And there was the thing that was like, love this pool, get a quote. You won.
Right.
So there's reasons to use it. There's 100%. I could find a million legit reasons why like we should use it as a company. We're just spending our time right now on a lot of other platforms that I don't think that it makes sense to try to do 8 million things and everything if you don't have the capacity to do it. But you should pay attention to it. 250 million people use Pinterest every month. 83% of women ages 25 to 54.
I was going to say, I feel like it's more of a niche
but
thing.
50% of new signups in 2018 were men.
We're coming in hot here.
Yeah. So it just makes sense to realize like people are on it.
Yeah.
They're on it. They're on it in a huge way. And you just really have to figure out how you're going to actually use it is really the big thing.
Right.
Don't be like, I don't use it, so no one does it. If your targets, if you're in the wedding industry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
The wedding is a huge.
Huge. Yep. Dresses, all those kind of things, the decor of it.
Oh, my goodness.
If you're,
reception
even
decor,
I think a lot of personal brands can use it in a big way because people love quotes. They love quote graphics. They love all those kind of things. People get those. So there's no reason not to use it other than if make sure your utilizing, your audience is in there.
Yeah.
But based on that stat, which actually is surprising to me, the audience is going up.
It's bigger. Yeah, it's
In
bigger
2000,
than you realize.
in 2016, 40% of new users were men. Now it's 50% in 2018 of new users.
When it first came out, it was definitely a female-driven place to be.
And I think it still is, almost. But I think that's changing.
Yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
This is also an interesting one too. Like high income
too,
and educated U.S. households are twice as likely to use Pinterest as low income and less educated. So even to a demographic of like, who knows how accurate that is or whatever, but it's just important. I like statistics because statistics just at least show you who is the general person on it,
right?
And then realize that things also change. Instagram's 18 to 34 as its norm. Well, that eventually becomes older because those people get older. They don't leave the platforms.
Right.
So things are always shifting.
Yep.
So realize that maybe it's a good one to just pay a lot of attention to and think about what you're going to do long term with it because it is another search engine in other ways. Some people just go directly to that for
Was that a nice segue into Snapchat, or is that the next thing?
We can go to Snapchat.
Snapchat is the next thing.
Yeah.
Is it? About that.
You talk about the age
No, you just
shifting
were
of
like, the age shifting. I was like, is that a good way to go in there?
Yeah, no, and it definitely is. That's Snapchat's another one.
My sister, who's younger than me.
How old is she?
She's 24.
She's my age, right? Oh,
yeah.
And she's actually getting toward, I mean, she's definitely on Instagram too, but Snapchat has been her thing for a while.
Yep.
And not as much mine. But that, like, her and her friends, like, that's all that they do. And I think that they do smart things too, where they have what's it called?
Filters?
No. Well, I mean, the filters are hilarious, but
you just don't know Snapchat at all, so we don't need to talk about it. And here's the thing.
Call it lifeline.
Here's the thing. Most of us don't use it that often.
No.
yeah, I don't.
But
Do
300.
you use it?
I was gonna say my age is the tipping point because like I have a good amount of friends that's all they use.
Yeah.
They literally are not on Instagram. I feel like I have like an older soul, so I feel like I've just gone to the Instagram side.
Yeah, and you're a creative, so I.
Yeah, so like the visual side of it and all that.
Yeah.
I feel like Snapchat's very, very like communication between, like really fast communication.
Yeah.
And I see like for example, like I've seen just a ton of like even kids like at high school in our church and all these things and all these places. Like it's only they don't even text.
Yeah.
It's
And
only Snapchat.
and they are so fast inside.
So
it.
fast.
When I watch my niece, I'm like, and they send the dumbest things half
my
the time in it, like
Yeah.
of the roof and of like a piece of their ear that's just like,
Yeah,
like
it's the weirdest
But
stuff.
it's the whole point though is 310 million active users, 190 million daily, 3 billion snaps every day. And the average time spent 30 plus minutes. 73% of people 18 to 24 years old is the percentage of users. That's a lot of people.
Huge.
But Snapchat, because of who's in it, is probably the hardest platform of any for a company
Business.
to break through on.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because those kids move so fast in all platforms, but Snapchat more than anything. They want nothing to do with any sort of ad, anything in there, which is why Snapchat's had a hard time with a lot of their ad attempts is because no one's seeing good enough results. Where you actually, I think, make money, the only place you make money in Snapchat is through influencer marketing on Snapchat.
Yep.
And like, I'd go as far as saying like, you don't even have to create yourself a Snapchat at all and just let other people promote your brand outside of Snapchat. You'd probably have more success than trying to even figure out how to do it. Because if you don't do Snapchat right, which is very hard to do right as a business,
You'll waste money.
and time, it's literally just not.
Yeah.
But the time shifting thing that we said, or the age shifting thing, is important to realize. If you're a company that is planning on staying around for a while, and your target demo is like 25 to 30, well, all these 73% of 18 to 24-year-olds, they get older. If you didn't know, like they get older, they age out of platforms. They may even stay in it, but more importantly, it doesn't say what amount of people use other platforms, but I know a lot of kids are also on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes.
Meaning, if you can even do somewhat of attention and awareness in Snapchat, when they get into other platforms, you already have at least a little leg up if they've seen something from you or heard about you whatsoever. Right. People are using it like crazy. It's definitely not as dead as people think. Like a lot of people say Snapchat is dead and all that kind of stuff, but it's those stats. I would love to have a company that had 3 to 15 million people each day. That wouldn't be a dead company to me at all.
No, I think it's more of, it really depends on what it is you're offering, selling, whatever that may look like. But like, I think it's making plenty big enough of a dent to pay attention to it, or just to figure out a way.
And especially in an influencer marketing standpoint, because if you're getting people that are 19 years old and you offer them $100, $200 for an ad, they're like, that's amazing money to them. And you might be getting in front of thousands and thousands of people for so cheap, because that's a lot of money to them. Before I was 21 years old, that's a lot of money to these kids that just had their first cars and their first loans and their first like reality of life. They need money, and you can get them very inexpensive and let them just tell their message in whatever weird way they do it on Snapchat is the key with them. If you're doing influencer marketing on Snapchat, don't even speak a second into what they should be doing, because unless you know it, you have no clue how to either. So they're going to do much better.
Yeah, for sure.
And Snapchat, and kind of, it's musically, I don't even know if you had that on there, but musically is another one that's and it's actually even younger than Snapchat, but it's being used in kind of a very similar way. And there are a lot of people that are putting out different content on that, and it's not actually called Musically anymore. It's called TikTok. But Musically is now TikTok. But TikTok has a lot of attention as well. And that's like my how old is she? 8, I should know. 8-year-old niece like has a TikTok from her mom's phone. Like she doesn't even have her own phone to do it. But she'll post just like it's really like fun lip singing to a point. It's like, but there's people that are trying to figure out how to cleverly do it. But you can't see this unless you're watching the actual thing. But if you actually are able to see how much they've grown in the last bunch of years, they've absolutely been growing like crazy. And that's an audience that's even younger than Snapchat. And to most companies, maybe it would be a waste of time to get that target audience, but not if you're selling certain things, or if you're in it for the long game and you want to be the crazy rare company that's posting really funny, fun things of employees in TikTok that would just not be at all what people expect. Right. There's ways that you can utilize it as well. I would say that 99% of companies listening will never post or even sign up for an account. Right. Not saying that's correct, but it was the most downloaded app in the App Store in Q1. So it's a lot of people.
Remember that we also remember we spoke at that one event, and this 16-year-old girl came up to us and was like, "Oh, you guys are doing YouTube? That's cool. Something I want to do." And I remember she was like, "Yeah, I got pretty big on Musically." And I was like, interesting, okay. And she was talking to us about that. And now today, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I think last time I checked, she has over 20,000 followers on Instagram. And she does a lot of little, gets paid for little modeling things and things she does or whatever. But I'm like, she's 17 years old. Yeah. And she got huge on Musically, or now TikTok, whatever. But it's just, you never know. And it's true what Scott said, you never know. These kids are getting older. Yep. And eventually they're going to need money to do these things. And so it's a huge way that you can, I think, reach out to kids, or not reach out to kids, you shouldn't say that, but just to be able to pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it was the sixth most downloaded app in the world in 2018. Out of all apps. Right. So there's a lot of people, a lot of people on it. So that's more. And then there's, other platforms we could dive into, like Twitch and different things that are huge in the gaming market, but are also another big social media avenue, another whole place. I'm not even going to get into that because Twitch is not something that I do anything on. But
it's big though.
Exactly, it's huge.
The video game,
and it's owned by Amazon, which, in case you didn't know, they have a few dollars to spend. So
They have airplanes in the air, people.
They have 70 of them currently, and they're disrupting every platform in the world.
They really
and I'm not one of those people at all that's like, how dare Amazon? I'm like, dude, impressive. Like, you guys, everyone needs to look out for them.
Whenever I see their Boeing flying in the air, I'm like, look at them winning. Do you see them? Look at that. They're winning.
Look at UPS and FedEx and everyone else being like, oh no, this is not good.
Dude, every mom and
26%. Not every mom and pop shop. Toys R Us shook in their boots and went out of business.
Yeah.
If Toys R Us went out of business, and this is all just to say, like, that's not the whole topic, but like Amazon or any other company just needs to constantly pay attention to what people are doing and execute on it. And that's what Amazon is doing. And that's what a lot of people aren't. All these platforms are things that you either are going to get the chance to start to execute on or don't and go out of business. Like, I'm not saying if you don't get on TikTok tomorrow, you're going to go out of business. But if you ignore the internet as a whole and ignore what's happening on the internet as a whole,
You will.
you will.
Yeah.
You're in big trouble because there's no doubt that this is changing everything. The internet, not just social media, just the internet in general is changing everything.
Yeah. But
And you need to be somewhere.
And viewers, obviously, you're here. So there is an aspect of like, you're probably already working on things. So kudos to you.
Yes, kudos to you for listening to just the greatest social media podcasts in the universe right here.
Number one in the
Universe.
Number one.
Do people just say that? I think people just say that. Just sounds
Well,
good.
it's hard to actually even search for
I know.
what it is.
So any other last remaining comments?
I think my last thing that I was just thinking about now is just like, it's funny that like all this stuff is currently happening. You might be like learning about this stuff for the first time, but what's so funny is that it's always changing.
It's always changing. Yeah.
There's going to be a new thing that we're not even
Embrace
talking
it
about. Exactly.
as just a learning process because it will always be changing.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, WhatsApp's another one we didn't even talk about. WhatsApp's not even, not even, I don't think, considered social media, but it is humongous worldwide. And they now are having, ad platforms built inside WhatsApp, and there's ad platforms built inside messengers, and there's it's so much.
Yeah.
But I think it's always changing. It's super important to you can't let overthinking and overwhelming cripple you to actually do nothing. That's the biggest mistake I feel like people get. People get so overwhelmed that they're like, I just don't even know where to begin. Well, you got to begin somewhere.
Nothing's not a great place.
Because 5 years from now, if you go out of business, you can't be like, it was too overwhelming. Well,
now you're
you
really
don't have you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
So,
and it can be fun. That's the thing. It can be very fun. It's just, you have to just learn about what's happening.
You have to learn, or you have to, and if you listen to the podcast, it's great. Like you said, it's people that are obviously wanting to learn. We're not experts in this, but I think we are practitioners of understanding what's happening so that when we talk to people that are listening to this podcast or through the podcast, they can trust that we're doing some homework. And when we sell to clients to produce content to social media, and that we're going to try to make them understand how to actually get results from what they're doing, we understand how to get the results for that. And that's what I think the biggest thing is. There's just so much information out there, so much wrong information, that it's important to just pay some attention to what people are doing, so that when you're choosing companies that help with it, because if you can't do it yourself, your next best bet is to choose a company to help you with it. And then it's just important to do some research on the company. Like, don't just look at obviously their subscriber counts or all that kind of stuff, because you never know when things were created. You don't know any of that. But look at are they doing the type of stuff that you want to do? If you see someone killing it on Snapchat and you want to get on Snapchat, talk to that person.
Right.
Or if you're looking to put out tons of content on YouTube and you like the way someone's putting content out on YouTube, then they're the good people to follow. Not about their likes, not about their followers, their view count, nothing. Just, do you like what they're doing?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think we've even had people that have come to us that have a ton of subscribers on YouTube, but they want us to help with another specific aspect of social media, whether it's ad space or whatever it might be. So don't be afraid to ask for help or find a company, that could really help you, because it's such an important piece of business. And if you're not doing it, or if you're not utilizing it well and you don't want to, like, please find someone to help you with it.
Yeah, because you could also find someone that has 1 million subscribers on YouTube but has never run an ad in their life.
Right.
So just because they have a following doesn't mean they actually even know how to use the program, like for your business.
Right.
Because it's also entirely different for a vlogger or some random person that is. You can easily find people on Instagram that have bought 500,000 followers and likes and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they're actually going to be able to get your business any business other than buying you likes, which do nothing for you.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really important to do your research, and then just give people a chance to do something if you feel like they're going to work, and then if they don't, you don't.
Should be a student. Got to be a student to the market, because I've noticed that I'm learning that the market has no isms. Like,
no,
the market doesn't care who you are, who your parents were. Like, none of these things. It's if you can learn and be a student. And don't just be a student that takes notes and does nothing.
Knowledge plus action.
You have to do something about it. And
Gary always says you can't read about push-ups and get in shape.
It's so true.
I love it.
And on that note,
put down your fitness magazine because it ain't working. Put down your social media stats. That's a good way to end it. All the stats we threw out mean nothing whatsoever if you don't actually do something with it. So that's how we're going to end it. What are you going to do with it? Thanks for listening.